The Bloomberg notification appeared at 6:03 a.m. on a Tuesday. Medivance Systems announces acquisition by HealthCore Global for $950 million. Deal expected to close Q4 2024. I was standing in my kitchen in San Diego, coffee halfway to my lips, when my brain finally processed what I was reading. Medivance Systems. My company. The medical device company I'd founded 8 years ago in a garage with $30,000 in credit card debt and a prototype insulin pump I'd engineered myself. The company my family now apparently owned and had just sold without telling me. I called my father's cell. He answered on the fourth ring, his voice jovial. "Rachel, did you see the news? We closed the deal. $950 million. Can you believe it? Your mother and I are flying to Bermuda tonight to celebrate. This is the biggest moment of our lives." "Dad, what deal? What are you talking about?" "The HealthCore acquisition. Didn't you get the board memo? We finalized terms yesterday. The wire transfer happens in 3 weeks once regulatory approvals clear. You're going to be rich, sweetie." "We all are." My hands went cold. "I didn't approve any sale. I'm the founder and Nobody can sell Medivance without my authorization." Silence. Then carefully, "Rachel, honey, you stepped down as CEO 2 years ago. Don't you remember? You signed the transition documents. Your brother Marcus has been running operations since then. I took medical leave. I never stepped down permanently." "Well, the paperwork says otherwise." "And the board voted unanimously to accept HealthCore's offer." Stun Rachel. "The lawyers have already drafted the transition documents." "What board?" "I appointed 3 board members when I founded the company." "Who voted on this?" "The expanded board. Marcus, your mother, me, and 2 outside advisors we brought in last year. We've been planning this exit for 18 months. It's what's best for everyone." I hung up and immediately pulled up Medivance's corporate records on my laptop. I still had access to the company's legal database, one of the few things nobody had thought to revoke. The documents told a story I'd been too sick to notice while it was happening. 2 years ago, I'd been diagnosed with an aggressive form of thyroid cancer. The treatment had been brutal. Surgery, radiation, months of recovery. I'd taken medical leave from Medivance, asking my brother Marcus to handle day-to-day operations temporarily. According to the documents, I'd signed a CEO transition agreement 3 weeks into my medical leave, officially stepping down and appointing Marcus as permanent CEO. I'd also signed board restructuring documents that expanded the board from 3 members to 5 and gave my parents voting seats. I stared at my supposed signature on the transition document. The handwriting looked like mine, but something was off. The date was October 2022, 2 weeks after my surgery, when I'd been on heavy pain medication and barely able to stay awake for more than 3 hours at a time. I'd signed something that day. I remembered Marcus bringing papers to my hospital room, telling me they were just formalities to keep the company running smoothly while I recovered. I'd been too sick to read them carefully, too trusting of my own family. I'd signed away my company while on morphine. At 7:45 a.m. I called Medivance's office. The receptionist answered cheerfully. "Medivance Systems, how may I help you?" "This is Rachel Nguyen. I need to speak with Marcus immediately." "Oh, Ms. Nguyen. We heard about the acquisition. Congratulations. Mr. Nguyen is in a meeting with the transition team right now. Can I have him call you back? Tell him I'll be there in 45 minutes. Make sure he's available." I drove to the Medivance headquarters in Carlsbad, the building I'd leased 5 years ago when we'd grown from 6 employees to 40. The parking lot was full. I recognized most of the cars, including Marcus's new Tesla Model S. He'd bought it 6 months ago, around the same time I'd noticed he'd started wearing expensive suits. The receptionist looked surprised when I walked in. "Ms. Nguyen, I didn't realize you were coming in person. Where's Marcus?" "Conference room B." "But..." I walked past her before she could finish. Conference room B had glass walls. Inside, Marcus sat at the head of the table with 6 people I didn't recognize. Lawyers probably and HealthCore representatives. They were reviewing documents, laughing, drinking expensive coffee. Marcus saw me and his face went pale. I opened the door. "We need to talk. Now." Marcus stood quickly. "Rachel, this is a surprise. Everyone, this is my sister, Dr. Rachel Nguyen, the founder of Medivance. Rachel, this is the HealthCore transition team. We're just finalizing some logistics. Outside. Now. We went to my old office, the one that apparently belonged to Marcus now. He'd redecorated. My diplomas were gone, replaced by his business school certificate and a photo of him shaking hands with someone I didn't recognize. What the hell is happening? I said quietly. The acquisition. Thought Dad called you. It's incredible news, Rachel. HealthCore is paying $950 million. Your stake is 23% after the board restructuring, so you're looking at about $218 million. You're set for life. My stake was 65% when I founded this company. That was before the board restructuring and the equity dilution we did to bring in the advisors. It's all in the documents you signed. The documents you brought to my hospital room when I was on morphine? Marcus's jaw tightened. You signed them willingly. Nobody forced you. I signed them because you told me they were temporary operational documents. You didn't tell me I was permanently stepping down as CEO or diluting my ownership to 23%. You were sick, Rachel. Someone had to run the company. I stepped up. I've spent 2 years growing this business while you were recovering. The acquisition is the result of my work, my relationships, my strategy. My work. My device. My patents. My FDA approvals. Which wouldn't exist without the infrastructure I built. Rachel, be reasonable. You're still getting over $200 million. That's life-changing money. Why are you complaining? Because you stole my company. I didn't steal anything. I saved it. You were dying, Rachel. Someone had to take control or Medivance would have collapsed. I made the hard decisions. I kept us afloat. And now I'm delivering an exit that makes everyone wealthy. You should be thanking me. I looked at my brother, the person who'd visited me in the hospital, who'd held my hand through chemotherapy, who'd promised to take care of everything while I focused on getting better. The person who'd used my cancer to steal my company. I want to see the acquisition documents, I said. All of them. They're confidential. Under NDA. I'm a board member. I have access. Actually, you were removed from the board last month. Conflict of interest with the acquisition. But don't worry. Dad's representing your interests. I walked out of the office, past the conference room with the HealthCore team and directly to my car. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely unlock the door. At 11:17 a.m., I called the one person who'd actually helped me build Medivance in the early days. Catherine Lee, our first VP of engineering. She'd left the company a year ago for a position at Boston Scientific, but we'd stayed in touch. Rachel. I heard about the acquisition. I'm assuming you're calling to celebrate. I didn't approve it, Catherine. I didn't even know about it until I saw the Bloomberg alert this morning. Silence. What? I told her everything. The medical leave, the documents I'd signed while on morphine, the board restructuring, the equity dilution, Marcus selling my company without my knowledge. Jesus Christ, Catherine said. Rachel, that's fraud. Corporate fraud. You need a lawyer immediately. I don't have access to company documents anymore. They locked me out. But you still have the original patents, right? The insulin pump designs, the software architecture, the FDA approval applications. They're all filed under Medivance Systems. Who filed them? I did. I'm listed as the primary inventor on all 7 patents. Then you need to contact the FDA and the patent office immediately. If Marcus is selling technology that you invented and that's registered under your name, he needs your explicit authorization. Without it, the acquisition could violate federal regulations. At 1:34 p.m., I called the FDA's Office of Regulatory Affairs. I was transferred 3 times before reaching someone who could help, a compliance officer named Dr. James Park. Dr. Nguyen, he said after I'd explained the situation. I'm looking at the Medivance Systems files now. You're listed as the primary inventor on all device patents and as the responsible party on the FDA approval applications. Is that correct? Yes. And you're telling me the company is being sold without your authorization? That's correct. I'm the inventor. I hold the patents. But my family restructured the company while I was on medical leave for cancer treatment. They diluted my ownership and are now selling the company to HealthCore Global. Dr. Park was quiet for a moment. Dr. Nguyen, medical device transfers require specific regulatory approvals. Any sale of a company holding FDA-approved devices needs documentation proving that intellectual property rights are properly transferred. If you're the patent holder and you haven't authorized the transfer, HealthCore can't legally acquire the technology. What does that mean? It means the acquisition might be invalid. I need to review the transfer documents. Can you have someone from Medivance send them to me? I don't have access anymore. But I can give you the company's contact information. I'll reach out directly. In the meantime, Dr. Nguyen, I recommend you hire an attorney specializing in corporate fraud. What you're describing sounds like theft of intellectual property. At 4:52 p.m. my phone rang. Marcus, his voice tight with anger. What did you do? The FDA just called demanding documentation on patent transfers. They're threatening to halt the acquisition. Rachel, if you tank this deal, you're destroying the company. Is that what you want? I want my company back. It's not your company anymore. You signed it over. I signed documents you misrepresented while I was on morphine recovering from cancer. That's fraud, Marcus. Corporate fraud. And if you sold my patents without my authorization, that's theft of intellectual property. You're insane. Dad was right, you've lost your mind. The cancer treatment damaged your brain. My brain is fine. But your legal strategy is about to collapse. The FDA won't approve a device transfer without the inventor's authorization. And I'm not giving it. Marcus's voice dropped to something ugly. You do this and you get nothing. We'll tie you up in court for years. The legal fees alone will bankrupt you. And you'll lose anyway because you signed the documents. You gave up control voluntarily. We'll see what a judge says about documents signed under duress while on morphine. I hung up and called the attorney Catherine had recommended, a corporate litigation specialist named Patricia Huang who'd handled several high-profile intellectual property cases. Patricia reviewed everything over a 3-hour meeting the next morning. The morphine-signed transition documents. The board restructuring papers. The acquisition term sheet. The patent filings listing me as primary inventor. This is actionable, Patricia said finally. Your brother committed fraud by misrepresenting the documents you signed. Your parents participated in the board restructuring knowing you'd been coerced. And Marcus is attempting to sell intellectual property he doesn't own. We have multiple angles of attack. What's the fastest way to stop the acquisition? Emergency injunction. We file tomorrow requesting the court halt the sale pending resolution of ownership disputes. We'll argue that the acquisition violates federal regulations because the patent holder, you, hasn't consented to the transfer. Will it work? With the FDA already questioning the transfer? Absolutely. The emergency hearing was scheduled for October 3rd. I sat at the plaintiff's table with Patricia while Marcus, my parents, and their team of lawyers sat across the aisle. My mother wouldn't look at me. My father's expression was contemptuous. Patricia presented our case methodically. She showed the court the transition documents I'd signed while on morphine, with hospital records proving my medicated state at the time. She showed the board restructuring that had diluted my ownership from 65% to 23% without my informed consent. She showed the patent filings listing me as the sole inventor of the core technology Marcus was attempting to sell. Your Honor, Patricia concluded, Dr. Nguyen founded Medivance Systems 8 years ago. She invented the technology. She secured the patents and FDA approvals. While she was undergoing cancer treatment, her family took advantage of her compromised state to seize control of her company. They are now attempting to sell technology they don't legally own. The FDA has already raised concerns about the transfer. We're requesting an emergency injunction to halt the acquisition until ownership can be properly determined. Marcus's attorney stood, a man in his 60s named Gerald Moss. Your Honor, Dr. Nguyen voluntarily stepped down as CEO. She signed the transition documents of her own free will. The fact that she later regretted her decision doesn't constitute fraud. The board acted within its authority to approve the acquisition. Dr. Nguyen still stands to receive over $200 million from the sale. Her complaint is motivated by greed, not legitimate legal concern. The judge, a woman in her 50s named Justice Sandra Reeves, examined the documents for several minutes. Mr. Moss, your client brought transition documents to Dr. Nguyen's hospital room 2 weeks post-surgery. She was on morphine and recovering from cancer surgery. Does that seem like appropriate circumstances for signing away a company? Dr. Nguyen was competent to sign, Your Honor. Medical records show she was alert and oriented. Alert enough to understand she was permanently relinquishing control of a company worth $950 million? Gerald hesitated. She understood what she was signing. Based on what evidence? The documents themselves. They clearly state the terms. Justice Reeves looked at Patricia. Counselor, do you have expert testimony regarding Dr. Nguyen's cognitive state at the time of signing? Yes, Your Honor. Dr. Nguyen's oncologist is prepared to testify that morphine at the dosage she was prescribed significantly impairs decision-making capacity and that presenting legal documents for signature under such circumstances constitutes undue influence. Justice Reeves nodded. Here's my ruling. The acquisition is halted pending full judicial review of the corporate restructuring and ownership claims. All Medivance assets are frozen. The board is temporarily suspended. And I'm appointing an independent trustee to manage company operations until ownership is determined. We'll reconvene in 60 days for a full hearing. Marcus's face went white. My mother started crying. My father looked like he wanted to kill me. I felt nothing but cold satisfaction. Over the next 60 days, Patricia filed a comprehensive lawsuit. Fraud. Undue influence. Theft of intellectual property. Breach of fiduciary duty. She requested full restoration of my ownership stake, removal of my family from all company positions, and damages for emotional distress and lost opportunity. The discovery process revealed everything. Emails between Marcus and my parents discussing how to manage Rachel's transition, while I was sick. Text messages about diluting my equity before I could recover enough to notice. Financial records showing Marcus had been paying himself a $450,000 annual salary. Money that should have been going to company growth or to me. HealthCore withdrew their acquisition offer. They'd been lied to about ownership structure and regulatory compliance. They wanted nothing to do with the legal disaster Medivance had become. The final hearing was on January 15th. Justice Reeves ruled swiftly. The evidence is overwhelming. Marcus Nguyen and his parents engaged in a systematic scheme to defraud Dr. Rachel Nguyen of her company while she was incapacitated by cancer treatment. The transition documents were obtained through undue influence. The board restructuring was fraudulent. The attempted sale violated federal regulations. I'm ordering the following remedies. Dr. Nguyen's ownership stake is restored to 65%. Marcus Nguyen, Philip Nguyen, and Linda Nguyen are removed from all company positions and barred from serving on the board. Marcus Nguyen is ordered to return all salary payments received above market rate. Approximately $1.2 million. Dr. Nguyen is reinstated as CEO. The Nguyen family is ordered to pay $500,000 in punitive damages for emotional distress. Marcus didn't look at me as the bailiff read the judgment. My parents left the courtroom immediately, their lawyer trailing behind. I sat in the courtroom after everyone else had gone, letting the reality settle over me. I'd won. My company was mine again. 6 months later I stood in the Medivance headquarters. My headquarters, and addressed the staff I'd rebuilt after firing everyone my family had hired. We're not selling to HealthCore, I told them. We're not selling to anyone. Medivance is going to remain independent. We're going to keep innovating, keep saving lives, and keep building something that matters. That's what I founded this company to do. And that's what we're going to keep doing. The applause was genuine. Later that evening Catherine called. I heard you turned down another acquisition offer. $1.2 billion this time. I'm not selling, Catherine. Not after what it took to get it back. Good. The world needs more founders who actually care about the mission. My family doesn't speak to me anymore. Marcus moved to Seattle. My parents sent one email calling me vindictive and cruel for ruining the family. I deleted it without responding. Last week the FDA approved our next-generation insulin pump. Stock price hit an all-time high. We're profitable, growing, and changing lives. And it's mine. All of it. My